Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today, I am just going to have a just frank conversation about, again, what it's like being a witch of color, a black witch specifically, who is black American, in this country, and what that means. And also one who not that whoever you love, you have to have children, but to be a mother to both a daughter and a son, who are also black and have a black husband. But anyway, I don't want to say I'm constantly thinking about race and politics and things like that, because I'm not intentionally, but to be who I am, and to live in this space and to live in this world, to be honest with you, intentionally and consciously, no, subconsciously, yes, it's built in. There are things that I've been taught that I don't even question, I don't think about, when it comes to just living and being. I was taught to typically, avoid politics and conversations about money for the most part. It doesn't mean that I can't have the conversations, but it wasn't encouraged. And I think most of us, especially if you're around my age, you come from a time where you didn't talk about politics, money, religion. Like those were conversations, in polite conversations and get-togethers. You try to avoid that because it unfortunately it can turn ugly. It can turn into an argument. Sometimes I wonder if we maybe shouldn't be talking about it so openly, but because of social media, everything is out there. And you kind of wonder, maybe there was something to be said to have a quote unquote polite society. Now let's blow the lid off of that. The problem with that is polite society will endure, all kinds of horrific human rights, complicated political issues, and just downright racism and sexism and all the other isms that are really bad. A polite society will just turn their head against it, and allow it to happen. So being someone who is black and who doesn't practice one of the three big religions, I would have to be very careful as a woman, black, and then not conforming to the traditional religions. That would be an issue for me. It would be even more scary to live in a polite society. So I don't know. There's two sides to every coin, So maybe good, maybe not so much. But because I get to live in the time that we're in, along with you who are watching, because we exist right now, I am grateful that I can have a channel like this, and I can be frank and I can be open. I could pretty much say almost anything I want. It might have consequences, but I feel like I can be authentic no matter what that looks like to anybody else, even if they don't agree with my views. So that's that part. I think I wanted to get all that out there just to kind of, before I really go into more details about the next thing I'm about to say. But okay, so being a black American, because it matters, practicing witch, it means feeling paranoid, but at the same time feeling the need to constantly rebel. There's a balance that I have to constantly strike. Having the same rebellious nature and ideas as maybe somebody early 20s, and they're coming into their own as a witch. Yeah, I'm older than that, but there are moments that doesn't go away. Fun fact, that never goes away, just so you know. Just you think you get older and you won't be rebellious and you just conform. It's not that you don't have it's not like, something in you makes you sort of act more grown up. What's happening at least with me and the people I know, is the rebellion is always there. You just don't act on it. You just get better at ignoring the urges. But because I live such a more alternative type of lifestyle, it gets harder for me to, not rebel. Aries sun sign here. That I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Kind of how I process that. But anyway, so it's like I'm walking a fine line. I'm very much aware of my history, and because of Ancestry DNA, I have a really good idea of where my ancestral roots actually originate from. It's a mix. Spoiler, my skin is lighter brown. Obviously, there's a reason for that, and I can see that in my Ancestry DNA results. So it's also reconciling for me. Okay, the fact that I know that I'm not all African, and I don't. The thing with that is when you talk about it from being a witch. For myself, it's just sometimes there's this weird feeling I get. The rebellion part comes in when it comes to, I guess, the Celtic holidays, which is where my ancestral line leads me to. Part of it, a good part of it, about 20% of it, I feel like I'm entitled to partake in those festivities. And I don't feel like I'm being inauthentic or I am just kidding myself by practicing the witchcraft or the spiritual practices, pagan practices that are practiced, let's say, in those regions where Celtic religion or Celtic spirituality, paganism, had originated. So I feel like I have basically a tie-in. I'm related. I may not be able to, at this point, I can't trace any specific family or person, but I feel like I have a connection, so therefore I get to do it. On the other side of that, I feel guilt because I feel like, why would I sympathize? Why would I want to tap into that part of my ancestral line's magic? Because most likely, based on just what we know about our family, most likely it wasn't a consensual relationship that even got this blood in my line, in my ancestral line. So, it's just reconciling that, excuse me, and it's a struggle. That's what it's like, knowing that and knowing most likely it wasn't a good situation. So I'm just trying to balance that. I do reach out to my ancestors. I meditate with them. And I may have mentioned this before. I know I did. But when I do that, I feel like we go on another plane of existence. And there's nothingness. Whatever's there is only what I can conjure in my mind's eye or what they're allowing me to see or what I believe I'm conjuring. Doesn't matter. But the point is, I sense figures, people. They're there. However, they don't, I don't see faces. It's not like, oh, the white ancestor, the black ancestor. I don't see that. I just know they're there, and it's a lot of them. And it's pretty much dark except for a gigantic cauldron, and I can hear the fire crackling. I can smell sometimes the firewood burning, and I can feel the heat from near the cauldron. And they're all sort of like in a somewhat circle, half a circle around. They're not all the way around. It's like a halfway circle. And whenever I commune with them, I'm always like on the edge. And there's like usually 3 to my left. This has been the imagery that I see in my mind's eye whenever I meditate to commune with them every single time. And this has been going on for years. This is always, that's the placement, that's position, and there's always a bunch of other beings behind them, but I can't see them. And it's like they have black hoods on. None of this is scary to me. Actually, it's very comforting. I feel like it's an army of, it feels like an army. It feels like, like a gang, and they got my back no matter what. So it doesn't scare me at all, not even the least bit. So this plane of existence, I'm very comfortable and I'm very familiar with. uh, like I said, it's that part of, since I have that connection, that's one of the ways that I reconcile, and I don't kind of freak out about the whole, I don't want to say diluted bloodline, but I'm trying to find another way to say it, diluted bloodline, diluted with European ancestry. So, because once they're on that plane, it doesn't matter. And, it puts me in a place of sort of ease a little bit within my spirituality. It's very difficult sometimes. It is, because you would think, well, what does race have to do with spirit and all of that sort of stuff? But I just explained to you, it's the mundane feelings, those emotions that are rooted and they matter, that are tied to history. I mean, being a witch is being wise. So knowing your ancestral line is a big part of practicing witchcraft for most of us. We want to know where we come from because it ties into the magics that would be best for us. Not best, but that would be best for us, that make more sense for us to practice. Some people are very ridiculously good with herbal type of magic. Like, they got a remedy, they got healing healing energy on the ready. They infuse their herbs with their healing energy, and those are just people where you're like, wow, you're really like supernatural walking around. There are people who are like that. There are people who are more psychic. You get my point. They have certain gifts and talents that have been passed down, and they're stronger than maybe others in that area. So yeah, if I'm good at divination, and I know that's been something that's passed down in my family, and it's a very high level skill that we've seen to hone with each generation, and I wasn't tapping into that, and instead I was trying to be the best herbal witch I could, but I was not that great with it. I mean, why bump your head up against a brick wall when you can just walk around and have a smooth, easier transition into wherever you're getting to. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Yeah, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole of ancestral and all that stuff and rape and all that, but excuse me, those are my thoughts on that. Speaking from a modern point of view, it's sometimes difficult for me having discussions with other Black people, Black Americans, about discussions on race and what's happening, or I was going to say the social injustice, specifically right now, without the conversations typically having much more of a religious overtone that I'm comfortable with. I'm tolerant and I'm very respectful, so I'm comfortable with that. But what I get a bee in my bonnet about is that I'm this way, but I know no matter how sweet, no matter how nice the person is, it could be family or friend, they only want to tell me, what they think in their views, because they think it's absolute and correct. And I totally understand that. But it makes it very difficult because every instinct in me wants to come back, and now I'm combative and I'm defensive, as opposed to just having a conversation, about, whatever new murder has happened at the hand of a police officer. For me, it's challenging, and I'm finding this because it's film. It's not that it wasn't happening before; it's just being filmed more. It's hard sometimes having these dialogues because I want to just shut up. I don't want to hear about all that. We can talk about this, and you could be thinking it, and I don't know, maybe if they could use different phrasing, but I know they can't. I used to be in that world, so I understand that's how it works. But boy, do I not feel like hearing it. I don't want to hear the correlation. I don't want you to tell me, I don't want to go into it because it's going to sound mean, but the point is, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So shut up. But most of the people I'm talking to I consider intelligent people I respect. I would never tell them to shut up, but I am thinking it. Kind of like I wish they would just think what they're saying about, religion and keep it in their head. But that's another thing about being how difficult it is being a black witch, black American witch. Okay, right now in particular. Okay, the other part of that is in the witchcraft community. You know, I touched on, you know, there's Norse. I don't know if you guys are, hopefully you understand that there's a lot of Wicca is drawing from either Norse and Celtic, mostly Celtic type of magic, right? You'll see that. So, and then they mix in a little bit of the Greek mythology as well. So people, especially, this is more so online, sometimes you come across, or maybe you have or haven't, sometimes you come across people, whether it's a blog or whether it's a, you know, Instagram or YouTube channel, and unfortunately the person behind it, the more you know, might get to know them, you thinking we're all under the same umbrella. Most people who practice witchcraft tend to be more liberal minded, but there are some who are practicing, but they're more in line, I guess, with the right. So in the politics that to me it's not politics to me. It's not what, you know, you thinking it's okay for people to just be killed in their home because they associate it at some point with someone who allegedly sold drugs. And you think it's okay, even though nothing drug related was happening at the time and they didn't commit a crime, and they should be in their home and just be shot, and that's your excuse for that. Yeah, we don't differ. That's not politics to me. That's scary, because people can call and say anything. Imagine if somebody wanted to start a smear campaign against you and they were deliberately called, because you can call the police and say, hey, I think drugs are happening, that, you know, they're doing drugs, selling drugs or whatever in that house, and you can have more than one complaint. Imagine if somebody was doing that to you. So, okay, fast forward, you know, they decide to raid your house, or, you know, fake raid your house, or whatever the situation was with that. You know, I don't know, I can't wrap my mind around how people making excuses for that. There's no excuses, just a lack of humanity and respect for people who have melanated skin. That's so ridiculous, because I have more brown on my skin. I guess I deserve to die. I don't know. But anyway, that's not a politics to me. It's much more personal, because Brianna, could be me. She could be my daughter. She could be anybody that I know. So it's personal. I kind of lost my train of thought on what that new thing was that I was about to say, because now I'm going down the rabbit hole with that, and I'm just thinking about it. I just keep thinking I could be my daughter. You know, we set her up in a nice apartment, and I could just, it freaks me out thinking, I play this in my head. You know, what if she's in an apartment building and we thought we put her in a nice place or something like that, and it's not, and that's all she could afford, so it seems okay, but it's not, and, you know, somebody busts her door in and just starts shooting. Like, that freaks me out thinking about that sort of stuff. But anyway, that's what it's like to do that, to be freaked out, knowing I have magic at my ready, so I can make protection amulets, and I can give her products and things that I've made, that assure, you know, safety and stability and protection, but there's always that feeling of, what if that's not enough? And this is, again, a conversation about wills, someone's will. So my will is to protect. My daughter's will would be to stay protected, right? And to trust in her mom, and that her mommy knows how to do this, and put the right protection energy in whatever the thing is I gave her. Let's say it's a necklace or something, and I just had a full-blown cough fit, but I'm back and relax. So the intention of whoever means to do her wrong, in this case law enforcement, in a situation like that, they have a very defined will, very strong will, especially if it's more than one. You know, you got to be very careful with that. So now, you know, it's a test of wills, and where will it end? And that's honestly, that's how I see a lot of conflict in the world. It's just a test of wills. And of course, there's physical that can be put behind it. You know, a gun shoot you. You know, But again, that's someone's will. So they're so intent on seeing their will through, that they get a gun. They make sure they get weapons and all that sort of stuff because they have, a determined agenda that they plan on carrying it out. And where, in the example I'm giving, myself and my daughter's agenda is simply to be protected and to be safe. So, it would be up to the universe on what that means. Does she get shot but not die? Is her being safe being killed so that, something worse would have happened if she survived? It's that's the kind of stuff that I think about, Not saying, probably most mothers think like this, but it adds a little bit of flair when you're black and you're a witch in this country. It's a little bit more flair on that. Outside of just racism and just religion, just knowing how seasons work as far as actually energy, knowing the universe and energy is just always flowing. Nothing ever really dies. Its essence remains. Even the worst people in the world, yes, the Nazi, the Hitlers, their energy, it's never gone. So knowing that and understanding that and still kind of living amongst the muggles, sometimes, yeah, it can be challenging. I don't feel the need to go out and try to convince anybody of anything. If you're watching this channel, I'm assuming we're on the same vibe when I'm looking at the camera and I'm thinking about the people who are going to watch this. I'm always thinking they're with me. And if they're not with me, hopefully they'll give me something engaging to talk back and forth about in the comments. But I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, because that's not what my spirituality is about at all. And it is difficult navigating amongst the muggles. It's difficult because sometimes I want to say things. I don't want to explain. I just want to give you the warning or give you the message or tell you it's going to be okay. And these are just people, whether it's people I know or people I don't know. Sometimes I'll see a post and I see people reacting to what's going on in the world, and I just want to let them know everything is cyclical and this is a cycle. But you got to be careful, because it sounds sort of like you're minimizing people's pain and their emotional experience, or how they're showing their emotional experience. And I don't want to do that. Or even talking to someone, you don't want to just kind of put it down and say, oh, well, this will pass, and then it will be this, and then it'll be that. And it's not that I know everything that's going to happen. I don't want to kind of put that out there, make it sound like I'm saying that. But I think most of us who are aware of how energy flows, and if you're a student of history, you understand, the ebb and flow, you understand flow. And for some people, it's like a pendulum, or, the ocean, with the tides. Things have flow. So this is where we are now. Of course, they can have negative consequences. Every decision that we're making right now as a society. But not everything will be negative, because, prime example, right now, I hear a lot of people discussing how 2020 is such a horrible time and they're struggling, and I understand that, and I have sympathy for that. I empathize. However, that's not been my 2020. So even getting sick, I got sick for a little bit, and trust me, it's crossed my mind. Did I have the COVID? Did the corona get on me? I don't know. But it wasn't an option to get tested at the time, the way things were going for me. And then I felt better. So I don't know. We'll see. But even with all that, I still didn't feel the need to. I don't want to bash the whole year. Also, caution doing that thing where, oh, I can't wait until this year's over. You don't know what's coming in 21. Don't do that. Let things happen, ride the tide, ride the flow, buckle up as best as you can. When I say buckle up, do protection spells, do home spells and blessings and all that sort of stuff. Sage, use your Palo Santo, use whatever you want. Do those things on a regular, sage yourself, your family, everything, your car. put little amulets and crystals and things like that that represent protection against all kinds of things, not just metaphysical, but actual physical protection as well. If it means carrying a gun for some of us, probably carry a gun. Never really seriously thought about it, the gun thing, until now. And it's not that I think I can make something stop just because I have a gun, and hopefully, you know, I would know how to use it. It's not so much that I think I can, you know, control everything, because I don't. That's not how it works, and there's consequences to that. But for my safety, my husband and I, we're kind of real old school. Like, okay, so if we're in a situation where we're feeling threatened, and we don't know who the person is, law enforcement or not, but if you're coming into our home and you're threatening us, we believe that we should be able to defend ourselves however we choose, you know, including using firearms. So we're on board with that, and we're good with that. That's my point. But anyway, so yeah, that's been my experience so far, and it's not all bad, because I feel like I'm unique because I am mostly of African descent, but about somewhere between 25 and 30%, I have some European ancestry in my line. It does, you know, it's a bit of uniqueness. I feel like it does give me access, honestly, to a little bit of everything without calling myself a culture vulture. I have access. I feel like is legitimate access. So there's that. I'm picking positive things now. I love the movement amongst more Black American women going into magical systems, whether it's ATRs or not. I love seeing it. I love having access to talk about magic and things like that with more women, melanated women. So that's really good. You know, modern times right now, having that access. And I like that I can have this channel and I can be kind of public, out of the broom closet for the most part. Yeah, I dig that too. So, yeah. All right, so that's pretty much just some random thoughts and rant things I kind of wanted to get off my chest, and I think you probably were thinking some of this kind of stuff too if you're watching this. And please share your thoughts in the comments, because I'd love to hear them. You know, if you are, let's say, Hispanic, you know, you want to say I'm Latin, I'm a Latina in America, or whatever country you're from or whatever. Yeah, I'd be interested to excuse me, to know how you're adjusting to just the state of the world right now and where things are, especially assuming you're a witch, by the way. I'm really curious to know what do other people, you know, what's your experience? So, and I do think it matters my age as well. You know, I'm over 40. I think it matters that I'm very much married. I've been married for years. We're an old married couple, and my children are older. Probably, you know, me 15 years ago, you know, I probably would have a similar stance, but probably there would be a little bit more layers, because now I would be very afraid for my smaller children and what they're being exposed to. Now, I mean, they're already exposed. For me, it's more like I still just want them to be protected, but somehow live an active adult life. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. But thank you for watching. Please go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And if you have, again, I thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And thanks again for watching. Bye.